The men under Lu Bu's command start praising him for his tactics. One after another, they all start getting down on their knees. They all say in unison that Lu Bu is the reincarnation of God of War, and they will be loyal to him till death. Lu Bu is thinking that not even million of soldiers would compare to a suicide squad like this, and they will be his loyal supporters in the future. Lu Bu gets a notification that his reputation has increased by 10 points. Night falls and Lu Bu is resting in his camp. Lu Bu is thinking that he just got lucky because he had no idea that the northern tribesmen will become afraid after coming across a trap. He has to use his brain more often in this world as he is physically weak. At the same time, Lu Bu gets a notification that his intellect has increased by 5. There is a lot of commotion outside and soldiers comes inside to inform him that they are doomed. He further elaborates that a large platoon of soldiers is heading their way and it must be a counterattack from the northern tribes. Lu Bu orders the guards to stop the commotion and pick 30 elite warriors to recon with him. After some time, they reach the place where the troops were spotted, and this time, their numbers are much larger than before. Lu Bu tells his men to carefully check the armor of these soldiers. On a second glance, they can clearly see that these soldiers belong to the elite cavalry of Dakian. The elite cavalry surrounds Lu Bu and his men from both sides. Lu Bu orders his men to stay still no matter what. The leader of the elite cavalry, General Yan Chang Kong, asks them that he got a report that the northern army will be invading today, but the whole atmosphere around here seems too quiet. Lu Bu gets on his knees and informs General Yan that the northern tribes have been defeated by the border guards. One of the commanders under General Yan doubts the claims of Lu Bu as the northern tribes consisted of tens of thousands of people, while the border's guards were poorly equipped and they had hardly a couple of hundred men. General Yan is doubtful as well, so he asks Lu Bu if he has a proof for his claim. Lu Bu tells them that his proof lies in the 2 moats beside him, and they can check for themselves. The whole foundation of the moat is filled with the dead bodies of northern tribesmen and their horses. General Yan gets shocked after watching the dead bodies littered inside the moats. General Yan asks for his name and Lu Bu introduces himself to the general. After some years, Lu Bu is training some soldiers in an open field. He is now 22 years old and his skill points have also risen by a big margin. At the same time, 2 high-ranked officials are eating food on the walls. One official asks the other why he's roasting meat while the rest of the troops are training. The official replies by saying that Lu Bu can't order him around like ordinary soldiers because he has no connection in the royal court. And he asks the other official if he knows how Lu Bu jumped ranks and became the garrison general. The first official states that Lu Bu blocked a big invasion of the northern tribes with only a couple hundred men and received a lot of praise in wars after that. The second official informs him that if he has not heard that Lu Bu killed his superior when he was a common soldier. The second official smacks him with his helmet and he warns him to quiet his blabbering or General Yan will cut out his tongue. After the training session, Lu Bu gets summoned by General Yan. Lu Bu says he is sorry for being late, but General Yan tells him that it's fine because he works hard to train the soldiers. General Yan further compliments him by saying that his training methods made the soldiers so strong that the northern tribes don't even dare to attack them anymore. Lu Bu says that there is no need to praise him as he's just doing his job. General Yan gets to the point and he informs Lu Bu that he summoned him today to arrange a marriage for him. Lu Bu is at the same age as his daughter and he's young and competent as well, so he thinks Lu Bu is best fit for his daughter. Lu Bu glances at the daughter of General Yan and she seems to be blushing as she likes Lu Bu as well. Lu Bu tells General Yan that he appreciates the thought but he do not dare to accept his offer. This pisses off General Yan's daughter and she unsheathes her sword. She then points out her sword at Lu Bu in anger and asks him why he don't want to marry her. We then see a flashback of 3 years ago where a young kid was sparring against a swordsman. This young kid turned out to be Xue, the daughter of General Yan. Xue manages to disarm her sparring partner with a strong slash attack. The instructor compliments Xue for her skill with the sword. The spectators start praising her as well for the marvelous swordsplay she just showed. But Xue is not buying any of their facade as she knows well that the instructor withdrew some force before the last attack and he was going easy on her because she's the daughter of General Yan. She tells her instructor that they need to fight once again, but the instructor seems a bit hesitant. Lu Bu was also watching it and he says that the northern tribes are invading Dagian non-stop and all soldiers should be training diligently. Instead of training properly, all of them are fooling around with a girl. He tells them that if they keep on going like this, one day they'll become a sign of disgrace for General Yan's cavalry. One of the veteran soldiers asks others about this new kid. His comrades inform him that this kid is Lu Bu who came back with General Yan a few days ago, and he defeated thousands from the northern tribes with just a small platoon made up of a few hundred men. Xue asks Lu Bu why he called her a little girl, and as a daughter of General Yan, it's only natural for her to train herself to be able to kill the enemies. Lu Bu tells her that she should stay in her room if she is the daughter of General Yan, as killing enemies is the task of men. This enrages Xue, and she asks Lu Bu for a match. Lu Bu turns away after saying that these stupid games are not for him. Xue asks Lu Bu if he is scared, but Lu Bu keeps on going without replying to her. This angers her a bit, and she leaps toward Lu Bu to hit him from behind. Lu Bu ducks down to dodge her first slash attack. Lu Bu keeps on dodging her attacks without hitting her back. Xue performs a sword stab attack, and Lu Bu leaps to the side to dodge it. Lu Bu then kicks a sword which was already in the ground, and it hits the sword of Xue, and her sword gets thrown high up in the sky. Lu Bu then quickly grabs the sword in mid-air. Lu Bu points the sword at Xue and asks her if she had enough fun. The crowd gets agitated after watching an upstart like Lu Bu pointing his sword at the daughter of their general. A soldier begs Lu Bu to lower his sword, but Lu Bu tells them to listen well, as wars are not games, and reality is extremely cruel. No one sympathizes with others during wars because of their status. Lu Bu further tells her that she could have been killed 100 times if she was to step onto the battlefield. Lu Bu starts leaving after telling her to stay in her room if she don't have the resolution to die. The old veteran soldiers start bad-mouthing Lu Bu as he leaves, but Xue, on the other hand, has developed some feelings for Lu Bu. A few days later, 2 horns are blown on the castle walls to alert everyone about a special event. Lu Bu seems to be heading outside with some soldiers for some reason. Xue asks the veteran about where Lu Bu is heading, and he tells Xue that a general from the northern tribe sent them a challenge letter last night with the aim of breaking their spirits. General Yan didn't know who to send, so all of the people in the court recommended Lu Bu, and he agreed to accept the challenge. Hu Batolin is one of the strongest warriors of northern tribes, and many generals perished at his hands. It's a certain death to take him one-on-one. The veteran tells Xue that they made Lu Bu to fight in this impossible battle because he disrespected Xue, and now he will atone for it with his life. But Xue is not happy with their plot, and she starts running toward her father. The guard stationed outside General Yan's room tells her that General Yan is busy watching the fight, and he can't see her right now. General Yan, who is hearing the ruckus outside, asks her daughter why she's making all this commotion. Xue asks her father to take back his orders and not let Lu Bu fight. General Yan reminds her that military orders are not something simple, and they can't be taken back so lightly. But Xue is still persistent as she tries to convince her father. Xue sits down right in front of him and she tells him that she refuses to go back until he takes his order back. But all of a sudden, they hear a lot of sounds coming from outside. General Yan is thinking that the commotion happened too fast, and Lu Bu was not so weak to get defeated in this short span of time. But when he looks outside, it turns out that the northern tribesmen are carrying the dead body of their general. Both General Yan and Xue become a bit shocked after witnessing it. They get alerted when they hear Lu Bu's voice, who says that he is here to report. Lu Bu heads toward General's room and he informs him that he has fulfilled his task and brought back Hu Batolin's head. Lu Bu throws Hu Batolin's head on the ground and the blood coming out of his head gets soaked into the wood. General Yan congratulates Lu Bu for accomplishing such a big task despite being here for a few days. He further informs him that his daughter was worried for him, and he asks her how they shall reward him. Xue gets flustered and she shouts at them that there should be no reward given for such an easy task. She starts running away from the scene because she's blushing, and General Yan starts laughing out loud. After 1 year, 2 officials are discussing how reports are coming in that Lu Bu has killed every single enemy from the northern tribes in the last war. The veteran soldier asks him how did Lu Bu achieve such a big victory. The other official informs the veteran that Lu Bu is returning soon, and they can find out about that in detail after he returns. Xue was secretly listening to their discussion, and now she knows Lu Bu is returning. After a few hours, Lu Bu returns back to the border gate. There are a lot of soldiers and common people present there to welcome him. Lu Bu glances at Xue and she turns her face down as her face becomes red. General Yan is quite happy with Lu Bu and he appoints Lu Bu as the garrison general. From that day on, Lu Bu personally started training the army. One day he noticed Xue training in the field along with other soldiers. Lu Bu grabbed her and started dragging her away, and he told her once more that she's not made for the battlefield. Lu Bu tells her to head back immediately as General Yan should not have noticed yet, but Xue is adamant on fighting heroically in the battlefield along with him. Lu Bu tells her that he will punish her according to the military law if she keeps on being stingy like this, and Xue tells him to go on ahead. Lu Bu has enough of her crap and he points his sword toward her. Lu Bu tells her that she's being a nuisance on his side, and if not for her father, he would have already thrown her out. Xue starts crying and running away after dropping her sword. Now in the present, Shui is pointing her sword at Lu Bu after he rejected to marry her. Lu Bu tells her that the northern tribes are still lurking outside and he can die any day in a war, so he cannot marry her. Shui tells him that if he dies on the battlefield, she will die along with him, but Lu Bu tells her that he already has a wife and daughter at home who are waiting for him, so he cannot betray them. Shui starts crying as usual, and she knows well that he is lying because he has not returned home ever since he enlisted at the age of 12. Once again, she runs away from the room. Lu Bu begs General Yan for his forgiveness, but General Yan says it's alright, and his daughter is being persistent like this from her childhood. General Yan says that he enlisted at the age of 12 and it has been 10 long years since he last saw his parents. General Yan tells him to take a leave for some days and spend some time with his parents. And in the meantime, Shui will be able to cool down, and Lu Bu accepts the offer of the general without any question. Few days later, Shui is sitting quietly while her guards are worried about her. The veteran informs them that General Yan wanted to promote Lu Bu, that's why he tried to arrange the marriage. He further tells them that nobles fear that outsiders can betray them, that's why they prefer kinship above all. General Yan wanted to hand over a higher position to Lu Bu, and the imperial court would not allow the promotion of a lowly commoner. The veteran further says that Lu Bu should not have given up on this opportunity. After a few days, Lu Bu arrives at his village. The whole village is gathered outside to welcome their hero. Lu Bu is feeling a bit awkward as he had brutally killed all of these villagers in his last life. The village chief starts praising him for making them proud by killing so many northern tribesmen. He further informs Lu Bu that the imperial court even reduced the tax on the village by 10%. He informs others that from today onwards, Lu Bu will be his foster son. Lu Bu asks the chief about his parents, and the chief tells him that he told them to wait for Lu Bu at their new house. When Lu Bu arrives at his new house, he is not even able to recognize it. His sister has grown up well, and she comes up to greet him. Lu Bu is glad to see his sister Lin Qi grown up. Lin Qi is too happy to see her brother after such a long time, and she hugs Lu Bu. Lu Bu says that she has grown up so much in this time and she could barely recognize her. Lin Qi informs him that her mother sent her for grocery shopping so they can celebrate his return. She further informs Lu Bu that their parents wanted to receive him at the village entrance, but the village chief told them to wait at home. After meeting Lu Bu, his mom starts crying because his son has so many scars on his body, while his father is thankful that he returned back in one piece. His mother complains to his father that he's being heartless, and his father tells her to not be so much short-sighted as their son suffered all of those injuries for this country. Lu Bu's father heads outside to take some fresh air. It turns out he was just acting, and he's also sad because their son suffered a lot in these years. After some time, they start eating together and chatting over food. His father tells him that they have been living a good life because he keeps on sending so much money to them. Now, his father has only one concern, as he wants to see his kid get married. Lu Bu's mom informs him that every family with a daughter is rushing to arrange a marriage with Lu Bu. After eating, Lu Bu decides to stroll around to check what has changed around the village. The three thugs from back then have grown up and they are collecting taxes from the shopkeepers. They want a shopkeeper to pay his taxes in a few days or the village chief will have his way with him. The bullies get shocked after watching Lu Bu heading toward them and they greet him. Lu Bu, without replying back to them, keeps on going his way. The bully leader is a bit skeptical and he tells them to stay away from Lu Bu as he can sense a beast inside him which can snap at any time. He further tells them that Lu Bu now seems more like an old calm phantom, but it can be all a hoax. 5 days later, Lu Bu is strolling through the market. Two soldiers come to greet him. Lu Bu asks them why they are here, and they inform him that the northern tribes started invading them after they received the information that Lu Bu is absent from the border. The northern tribes are planning a big invasion with a 1,000,000-man army. In a few days, Lu Bu arrives at the border and he greets General Yan. General Yan says that he came on the perfect time and he hands over total control of the army to him. General Yan says that he hopes that Lu Bu will not disappoint him, and if he is able to win this war, General Yan will personally recommend him to the imperial court. Lu Bu tells him to not worry as he will devote everything to this war. After a few days, both massive armies come face to face on the battlefield. Lu Bu is chopping off all enemies like paper. Lu Bu is rampaging through the battlefield by beheading all enemies on his way. He keeps on slaying enemies, but their number is still very large. Lu Bu gets alerted after hearing a familiar voice. He looks around and it turns out to be Shui Yan who just chopped off a soldier's arm. Lu Bu heads over to her and he asks her what she's doing in here. Without replying back to him, Shui rushes on ahead. Shui Yan slashes off an enemy soldier in two with all of her might. All of a sudden, a stray arrow moves toward her, but Lu Bu catches her in time, which saves her life. Both of them fall down from their horses, and Shui asks Lu Bu why he keeps on bothering her. But before Lu Bu can reply, a horseman gets ready to cleave him into two halves. Before he can land a hit on him, Shui Yan pushes Lu Bu on the side, and we see a lot of blood splattered on the ground. After the war is over, two exhausted officials are sitting near the walls and they are happy that they made it alive. The veteran says that he was not expecting Lu Bu to beat the northern tribes, but unfortunately the life of their lady is still in danger. While Shui Yan is getting treated, Lu Bu and the rest of the soldiers are waiting outside for their general. They all get alerted when they hear the cries of the general who is begging his daughter to open her eyes. Lu Bu has never heard General Yan sound like that before, and he's thinking something worse must have happened. After some time, General Yan comes out and he's not looking well. General Yan announces that his daughter, Shui Yan, just passed away. He angrily orders Lu Bu to hand over the commander's seal and return back to his hometown. Lu Bu's left-hand man gets up and he reminds General Yan that Lu Bu just achieved a huge feat after defeating the northern tribes, and General Yan promised to recommend him to the imperial court if he won this war. He begs General Yan to think it again, as his decision can demoralize the whole army. General Yan is disappointed in how Lu Bu disciplines his men, and he tells Lu Bu that he heard a rumor that back then he became the platoon leader after killing the previous one. And now he's witnessing signs of rebellion, as if Lu Bu is trying to take over his position. General Yan orders his men to drag out the left-hand man of Lu Bu and behead him. The left-hand man says that if it wasn't for Lu Bu replacing their previous useless leader, all of their platoon would have perished under the swords of the northern tribes. He further informs General Yan that he owes his life to Lu Bu and it's only right for him to die for Lu Bu. But the young lady acted on her own and her demise has got nothing to do with Lu Bu. He tells General Yan that he is acting just like their previous useless leader. With that said, the whole army gets ready to attack General Yan and his loyalists at a single order of Lu Bu. There is complete silence on the field for a moment as Lu Bu is silent and they keep on waiting for his command. General Yan warns them that they will not get away this time just like they did back then. The right-hand man says that they don't care about their lives anymore as the word of Lu Bu is the only command they need. Lu Bu screams at them to stop this nonsense at once. Lu Bu informs General Yan that his men are not in the right state of mind because they just came back after fighting a long battle, and he says that he will follow his order obediently if he lets his men go free and treat them well in the future. General Yan agrees to his request and Lu Bu goes away after saying that he will never step foot on the border in the future. After that, 38 years pass by and the Lu village has been developed a lot in this time. Lu Bu has grown old and his grandkids are paying respect to him. His sons and daughters prepared gifts for his birthday. Lu Bu is 60 years old now and he gained quite a lot of reputation. His wife tells him to smile a little bit because it's his 60th birthday. But Lu Bu says that he would have become happy if even a single one of his kids had went to the army and brought honor to their household. A servant comes inside to inform Lu Bu that a woman came to the village, and she's asking for him and she's being escorted by a lot of soldiers. Lu Bu heads outside to greet the guests who are waiting for him on the outskirts of the village. Lu Bu knows these soldiers belong to General Yan and he asks the woman why she's looking for him. The woman knows him well and she quickly points her sword on the face of Lu Bu. Lu Bu remembers that Shui Yan did the same thing once in the past and he asks her how she is alive. Shui Yan tells him that this is not the right place to talk and they should head inside the carriage. As Shui Yan removes her mask, she informs Lu Bu that she didn't suffer from any fatal injuries in the past. It was just that her face was scratched. She further tells him that there was a different reason why her father made up that lie and why he made Lu Bu hate him. But Lu Bu informs her that he has no hatred towards General Yan. Shui Yan tells Lu Bu to shut up and listen to the full story. Back then, the doctor told General Yan that there are no life-threatening concerns, but her face is ruined. General Yan asks her why she did this horrendous thing, and Shui Yan informs him that she always loved Lu Bu, but General Yan arranged a marriage between her and Jiang Tianyi, who she hates. That's why she don't want to live anymore. General Yan informs her that food and weapons are crucial in a war, and Jiang Tian's father is the Imperial Secretary of War, who is trying to force them into this situation. That's why he cannot deny to his request. General Yan wanted to request the Emperor to command Lu Bu to marry her, because he cannot reject an imperial order and Shui Yan is the foster daughter of the Emperor. But now that her face is scarred, the Emperor will be furious and the Imperial Secretary of War would also hold a grudge against Lu Bu. Even with such a big feat, Lu Bu's death is already fated. Shui Yan thinks it's all her fault, but General Yan says the fault lies with him, as he should have told her earlier. Shui Yan says that she will exchange her life for Lu Bu, but General Yan tells her it is not possible. Then General Yan comes up with this plan, and he thinks informing Lu Bu about it is not good, and given his impulsive nature, he can do something stupid. General Yan tells Shui Yan to play dead, and he will use her death as an excuse to remove Lu Bu from his position, so he will never have to deal with the imperial court. General Yan gives his daughter a piece of advice that if she wants Lu Bu to live, then she has to play dead and never meet Lu Bu ever again. Lu Bu was wrong about General Yan all this time, and he asks Shui Yan about the current whereabouts of General Yan. Shui Yan informs him that her father recently passed away, although he was not punished directly, but the blame he received from the imperial court increased tremendously. As a result, the amount of provisions and weapons they received became lower and lower. Gradually, these unending concerns made General Yan's health even more worse, and even in his dreams he kept on mumbling that if Lu Bu was still here, the northern tribes would have no place to hide. General Yan wrote a letter before his death, and he tasked her to deliver it to Lu Bu. The letter stated that, "In our lives, there are a lot of things with which we feel dissatisfied. Not even the emperor can escape from this dissatisfaction. As Great Gyan's nation's courtier for 3 generations, I have witnessed the rise and fall of the empire. I was once hot-blooded and reckless as well. Looking at Lu Bu always reminded me of the younger version of myself. I wanted a good peaceful life for you. But the empire is in great danger, and I have no choice but to task you a final mission." Lu Bu runs out after reading the letter, and he asks his sons to ready his horse as he needs to head to the north gate right now. His son and grandson cannot understand why he needs to go there since today is his birthday. Lu Bu shouts at them to ready his horse right now, and his wife tells his son to do as their father is saying. With that said, Lu Bu starts riding out toward the north gate with Shui Yan. He stops near General Yan's grave to pay his respects to him. Lu Bu tells General Yan to not worry as he's prepared to die for this nation in his place. Lu Bu asks his fellow generals if they are willing to follow him into the battle. All soldiers shout out loud that they are willing to follow him till their deaths. Lu Bu asks Shui Yan to give him the golden armor of General Yan. Shui Yan asks Lu Bu if she can fight alongside with him this time. Lu Bu gives her permission to join the war. After a few days, both humongous armies clash with each other on the battlefield. Lu Bu and Shui Yan are cutting through the ranks of northern tribesmen. All of a sudden, Shui Yan's heart gets pierced by a stab attack from a spear. This distraction becomes lethal for Lu Bu as his neck gets sliced by a stray blade. Lu Bu falls down to the ground and his neck starts bleeding. Lu Bu gets surrounded in a stampede of enemy cavalry, and one of the horses stomps on his face, killing him in the process. After his death, Lu Bu wakes up in the system space and he seems to be crying. Lu Bu received 35 final status points because he became a general who commanded over tens of thousands of people. His final reputation is 69 because the whole empire knew about his feats, and even the northern tribes hailed him as a great warrior. Lu Bu received a lot of rewards after climbing the ladder, but he spent it all on the well-being of others instead of squandering them for himself. His final wealth could not grow much because of his nature of helping others with his personal wealth, and now his final wealth points are 23. As Lu Bu aged, his strength got weaker. That's why he received 19 strength points. His intellect is 25 because there were some flaws in his actions, but he still accomplished many things with his wisdom alone. Overall, Lu Bu received an ending of a heroically sacrificed and final rating of A. This time, the rating of Lu Bu has increased by a big margin, and the system starts analyzing the final results along with his rewards. Lu Bu received 1,296 virtual coins, plus he can choose one out of 3 talents to strengthen his physique permanently. These options include velocity, retentive memory, and level 1 liver strengthening. Lu Bu makes up his mind and he chooses the liver strengthening as his reward. With that said, the system starts strengthening his liver. The system informs him that the attributes acquired during this simulation will now be inherited by him in the real life, and after analyzing his complete, he receives tenacity as his reward. Tenacity allows his willpower to be immovable. With that said, Lu Bu wakes up in his body in the real world. His wife asks him why he has woken up so suddenly. She further notices that his face is looking pale, like he had a nightmare. Lu Bu tells his wife to bring the best wine they have as he needs to visit an old friend.